Hey, guess what?
Hey,
It's another Wednesday night.
it's a new year.
And it's a new year. And I promise you, our online presence won't be nearly as exciting as the news today.
Yes.
But welcome back to another Beers with Ben. This is Ben, and I'm Sean, and we're here to talk about beer at the brew hall.
Let's do it.
Lindsay's going to hop in frame just for a little bit, and there we go. Drop in any comments or questions you have. I'm going to do my best. I have different technology in front of me today, and I'm going to do what I can to read all of
You're
that.
gonna be a champ.
Yeah. Pat's already watching. I can see that. Hey, Pat. Nice to see you too today. So I'm just going to do a little overall, and then we'll get into the details. So we have a couple beers in front of us we're going to talk about. I want to talk about the governor's news about reopening. I want to talk about some beers that I want to tease to our watching public.
Always
I
fun.
want to talk about some upcoming beers, and then we have a little side featurette, we'll call.
Yes.
So
This is gonna be dangerous.
yeah, we're
It
gonna
may fail, but
we didn't practice ahead of time. But if you buy crowler cans anywhere from us or
Yes.
anywhere, you may struggle with the opening and then pouring process of a crowler can, and we believe we have the answer. So stay tuned for that. As we get started here, again, just remember to pop any questions or comments into the Facebook feed you're watching right now. I'm going to call out a little help from the folks that are around me also watching this. If questions pop up and I don't see them, let me know. But our website, chocolatebluehall.com, is an excellent place to place your online orders for beer to go, especially if you're going to order growlers like this guy. That helps us get that filled. We fill those to order, so the beer is as fresh as it possibly can be. And a little heads up helps, otherwise you'll end up chatting with us for a few minutes while we fill it, which isn't the most horrible thing in the world.
I think we would enjoy like maybe a quick rinse when you're done with the growler.
You know, hey, that brings up something, not in my notes. When you finish one of these up, run some hot water, even some hot soapy water to it, and that helps us get everything clean. Of course, we do hot wash and sanitize everything before we reuse it, but everything helps.
And we're not giving you back the same
growler.
growler. I mean, you're getting a fresh, sanitized growler from us, but it just helps us out when you bring back that used one too.
And a quick note, we're happy to take our growlers back for in exchange for the growler deposit that was made originally, the $5 deposit. And we fill only our own, so please keep other breweries' growlers on your shelves.
I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Or take them back to us. But also, we don't refill any reusable ones, the stainless ones and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. All right. So we have two beers in front of us. I want to get started with the one in our pint glass here.
Okay.
This is.
I was nervous which one you were going to
I
didn't want to start yet, just in case.
Yeah. Cross Check is the beer. That's the name. Hockey reference.
Yes.
And here's some 16-ounce cans of it right here. There's a mean-looking peacock on the label. With a hockey stick in its hand.
Yes.
So there's our hockey reference. But probably more importantly to us is the style of this beer. It's a Pilsner.
Yes.
And we haven't, I'm just going to list off a few things. We haven't made a Pilsner here
Never made
before now. And so here's our first one. And maybe Lindsay can confirm, but we did a little side-by-side taste testing of some out-of-state Pilsners last week. And we're pretty dang proud of this Pilsner.
We are, yes.
So first, why we haven't made this Pilsner before, and then we're going to talk about what a Pilsner is characteristic-wise.
Yeah, so the biggest reason we haven't made it before, it's a relatively popular style. I think most people know what a Pilsner is, or at least have heard of it before. The problem for us down here in Shakopee is it's really hard water, and Pilsner is traditionally made with a lot softer water. And because of that, there's a lot of stuff we got to do to the water. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves in doing down here is producing beer that is a reflection of the water in Shakopee. We obviously filter the water through a carbon filter to get out iron and manganese and harmful things that we would never want in beer. And we also have a water softener to help us out a little bit, but the water that typically is used here, even softened, is still considered pretty hard. I mean, in the middle of summer, we can have 360 parts per million of bicarbonate, in the water down here. And, not only do you see that in all our stainless steel appliances over here as the water evaporates, but even softened, I mean, it can be brought down to, depends on the time of year, but I mean, I've done a softened water test and it's still been 200 before. That's still pretty hard. And so, not wanting the hard water on a beer that is typically known to be quite soft, I just have never made one. Because we don't have something like an RO filter down here. I didn't want to strip all of the chemical out of it, or all the mineral out of the water just to turn on and put it back in. I kind of have this opinion that, if you can neuter the water down to nothing and then add everything back in, it doesn't really matter where you're making the beer in that case, because you could always reproduce other styles or other locations of beer in that place, which is certainly great, especially in a case like this where you're desperate to make a Pilsner. But it was never our intention here at Shakopee Brew Hall to make a beer that you could get in Colorado or Washington. Not to say there's anything wrong with it, that's a great beer country, but the beer that we make here is a reflection of the water that we get here. And so it had taken us 3 years really to just kind of come to terms with the fact that we really wanted to try to make this beer, but how could we do it? And so we had to work with our friends over at Triton Chemical to help us figure out how to get some scaling issues off of our HLT tank, our hot liquor tank, just so we wouldn't have that still in there. And then we just happened to have a good run of softened water where it was basically zero after coming out of that softener. So the time was right to try this style out. So
what it really comes down to is where this originally comes from, Pils.
Yep.
The water is naturally soft there.
Yes.
So they make this style of beer.
Yes.
And that's just what it is. So we had to work for it a little bit.
Yep.
But here it is.
And I mean, here we are in Shakopee, but I mean, this would qualify, I mean, not being in Czech Republic, but this would qualify every other way as, what would be needed for a Czech Pilsner. This is Monrovian malt, this is Bohemian Pilsner. These are Czech hops. The water obviously is Shakopee, but yeah, I mean, it's a Czech based lager strain that we use to make this, and so really tried to replicate, using that Shakopee water as much as possible, what a Czech Pilsner tastes like. And like Sean said, we did a lot of side by sides with what did we do, 6 other
5 or 6, yeah,
5 or 6 other breweries, and really quite proud, pat myself on the back here, with the way this one turned out. The bite from the hops is quite prominent. Too hoppy for a certain someone out there that might be watching, but
well, Tim, our friend Tim, mentioned that he was very pleasantly surprised to have a hop presence in this beer.
yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what Czech hops there are out there and what this is in this beer?
So the one that everyone has probably heard of in the brewing community is Saaz, S-A-A-Z. But there's other ones out there, Zlatic, and I'm trying to think of there's actually a whole Czech Bohemian Hop Institute that's coming out with some newer stuff. But the one that everyone has heard of is this Saaz, and it is considered a noble hop. It is up there with a lot of the original German hops, Tettnang and Tradition and Hirschbrucker and Hallertau. These are like the grandparent hops that everyone has used, and it's just because they're perfect for what they do. They're not super bitter, but obviously you add enough of them in, you get the bitterness you're looking for. They're very approachable. They're a little bit more herbal. You don't have all these fun new age tropical fruits and citrus fruits and stuff like that coming out of them, but They make quintessential what I think most people around the world think of as beer.
I didn't prep you for this question, but a lot of the American,
should be good.
a lot of the American lagers and kind of the mass-produced stuff
Yes.
comes from this tradition originally pre-prohibition. They've just been mellowed out, watered down, used some different grains and stuff. But if we do some pre-prohibition American beer styles, we'd be looking at something like this. First generation brewers coming over and getting something like this.
Right, you got to remember that when you're talking about something pre-prohibition, and that's also another realm of beers that we've talked about, maybe dipping our toe into every now and then. But when you're talking about any kind of like pre-prohibition, actually any kind of location-based beer, you have to take into account that you are utilizing ingredients that you can find in that location, right? So pre-prohibition lagers and stuff like that, there's going to be a lot of corn in it because it was available. It was a fermentable sugar available at the time, where barley may not have been as easy to come by. Whereas something like a Czech Pilsner, I mean, there's a reason it's supposed to be Monrovian barley because it's supposed to come from the region of Monrovia in the Czech Republic. It was what they grew in and around Pilsner. And so, we try to replicate that even to this day because it works, people know it, people love it, and so library is something that obviously is perfect. So,
well, short of bringing water in from New Prague, this is
Yeah,
what
he
I'm supposed
was
to bring
doing
it
that,
to a Czech Pilsner here in Shakopee. So I can tell you that I know we have some of this out in liquor stores, and certainly you can pick it up here at the brew hall in crowler cans, this size can, and get it in a growler. It's, how do I say this the right way? Not everybody thinks of Pilsners in the craft brew world, but they're out there. There are some craft lagers out there, and I just want to put it out there to all our viewers and Shakopee Brew Hall fans that this is a fine example of a craft Pilsner.
I was really happy with how this turned out, and so continue to look for this because I think this is going to maybe not be a 100% mainstay, but certainly within the normal rotation. So.
Awesome. We're going to take a break from tasting beers just a little bit here and talk about some other things. We just want to address the governor's news today. There's so much news on TV. We didn't actually end up watching the governor at all today, did we? We had the TV on down here all day today. So we are going to be able to open starting next week for inside service.
Yes.
And so I just want to break things down today, for you about how that's going to work. We're going to concentrate on being open Wednesday through Sundays, starting next week, for sit-down service. And if you remember what things were like prior to this most recent closure, there were restrictions on how many people you can have at a table, how close you can be, all that sort of thing. Well, that's basically what we're going back to. A couple positive differences. Last time it was that you could only have 4 people at a table and so forth. We can have up to 6 people at a table. I would prefer the people you already know or live with, but that's up to you. 6 people at a table. We are actually able to have folks sitting at the bar.
Yep.
The rules are groups of 2, spaced at least 6 feet apart. So I've got my measuring tape out today. I've been working on that. We're going to figure that out for you. So starting next week, we'll have some seating. For those of you who are regulars at the brew hall, the one thing we're going to ask you to do is come on in and check in at the bar with whomever is behind the bar. Sign in to make sure we have the reservation requirement taken care of, and we'll get you seated. During Fridays and Saturday nights, we'll have a couple people working, and when things get busy, to keep everybody safe and healthy, we're going to have table service. So one person behind the bar, another person out on the floor, taking your drink orders. That'll keep you at your table and safe. As always, when you're not enjoying a beer, we just ask that you be masked up when you're away from your table, using the bathroom, getting another drink, going in and out, that sort of thing. That's right. So look for a few things on our social media in the future about that, because we want to make sure you're informed. Again, our website, ShakopeeBrewHall.com, for a good sense of what's on tap, online orders, things like that. I'm just crossing things off my list here. A big thanks to our annual and our lifetime members, especially in the last month here.
Yeah.
We've had some people join up, and it's been super awesome for us. It's a sign of support, both emotional support and some financial support for us, and so we appreciate that very, very much. If you're new to the Blue Hall family as a member, thank you so much. Thank you for the downtown partners next door. Make sure you shop local with Turtles and Braves and Pablo's and O'Brien's and everybody else downtown. Your support to us and them during this closure has been a big deal. It's important. And then, of course, to our liquor store partners, we've been putting the candy machine to hard work lately. In the last 2 weeks,
don't include me in there.
He watches. Stretches his chin.
Yes.
Nods approvingly. Yep. So keep that going. And again, if you're not a Shakopee local and you've enjoyed our beers in the past, talk to your liquor stores, favorite liquor store, and let them know you want to see us on their shelves, and we'll be in good shape. I'm going to sneak in some information about some upcoming stuff. That's all right with you. So yesterday, and put together an orange sickle beer. So 30 seconds. What do we got going on here?
I don't know. Is Dreamsicle copyright on it?
Yeah, don't say that.
It is blood orange, lactose. It's going to be creamy and full of body. Obviously, some sugar or some vanilla in there, and so think of it like an orange push pop or something like that. Using Loki as kind of the carrier for this flavor, and so which is already kind of a little bit of an orangey characteristic to it. So it plays really well together. We took a sample this morning, and outside of just a little bit of pulp, it is we do use real fruit.
Yeah. We got out the juicer yesterday.
Yeah, we got the juicer, and we got the zest. And again, by we I mean someone else.
Someone else. Ryan is our designated zester most of the time.
Yes.
Damon occasionally. Yeah.
Yes. But we got the zest and the actual juice going, and lactose and vanilla, and so this is maybe not for everyone. Lactose especially. But if you like a push pop, you like that orange push pop, then you're gonna like this one.
So it's been canned today. It's ready for sale tomorrow. Come down and get it. You can do your online ordering or just pop in and grab a crawler of it. Also coming up this weekend, we have just a little bit of Hard-Headed Dreamer left. So we're going to use it up, folks. This is what's going to happen. A Hard-Headed Dreamer latte.
Yes.
So key ingredients.
I mean, this is going to be in kind of that coffee latte style of beer. So obviously expect some cold pressed coffee, using our friends from Driven's coffee once again. A little bit of lactose, a little bit of vanilla, just to kind of give you that rounded sweetness. Not as much as what's going in this orangesicle. But a little bit of sweetness added in there. Again, we're calling it a latte. We're going to try to achieve that milk sugar balance.
So some coffee you mentioned, Chris?
Coffee from Driven. So I really like to use their Guatemalan Antigua for these darker beers and stuff.
I was able to make a little trip up to Driven yesterday.
Yes.
And got a little tour of the place. So thank you, Aaron, by the way. And what a beautiful smelling place.
Yes.
If you like coffee at all, I could just stay there all day. It's wonderful stuff.
When you walk in and the coffee roaster is taller than you, you're in a good place.
Yeah, so pretty neat. So upcoming, today was the move day from Fermenter to Bright for Magic Feather.
Yep, Magic Feather's soon to be re-released.
So look for that as soon as this weekend.
I feel like every time this happens, I have to throw an apology that we let it go dry, but it's just, I can't. You guys always go faster than I can make this beer, so that's awesome.
Not a bad problem, honestly. We have a batch of Cinco in the works.
Cinco has also been moved, so carbine right now, that could be ready for this weekend as well.
And likely we're going to spend a little time on this beer style in a couple of weeks.
Next time.
Dortmunder. Google that, folks. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks. But if you know anything about beer and you know what a Dortmunder is, Dortmunder.
I mean, if
that's coming.
We'll tease it by saying if you like the concept of a craft German lager, but the whole Pilsner doesn't appeal to you because it's too soft, at the Dortmund refinery.
Coming up. Awesome. So I think I'm going to break in with our crawler demonstration.
Okay.
I'm going to move this out of the way so
It's
we
going
can
to be
see.
dangerous.
We're just going to do some remodeling here. So one of the great troubles with these guys is that you crack it open, it's such a big can,
Yes.
dribbles down the edge of the can.
Doesn't pour well, and it really is a symptom of, we as being a small brewery, we can these from the tap. There are certainly breweries out there that have a crawler canning line. And if you've never seen what a crawler canning line looks like, look it up on YouTube. They're actually pretty interesting.
It's a lot of machinery going on.
It's kind of fun to watch. But we, like a lot of other breweries, will hand fill the crawlers. We have a crawler steamer here, so it steams the can like any other canner. But because of that, we're trying to avoid, obviously, oxygen in your air. And so we don't want to leave much of a gap in here. A little bit of foam is great, but we don't want a depth of air in there because that's just going to cause the beer to go badly. And so when we put this lid on it, there's a lot of beer still in there. There's not much of a gap.
It's full.
And so, as I'm sure many of you have found out, when you crack that lid, you're already in the beer. Your finger's already in the beer by the time you pop that thing. So there's not a lot of room for that beer to pour out nicely. So what does it do? It gurgles and it splashes. And that first pint is always a problem. It's the second pint that pours out just great. So
here's my handy tool from home.
So I did not invent this. So I take no credit. But I actually saw there's a beer writer out there called John Paul, who I've seen on his Twitter or Instagram or something like that, a couple months back, kind of demonstrating this. And so, this isn't going to be any great revelation, but what we're going to do is, obviously, we'll still pop this like a normal beer. Hopefully I don't scratch myself in the face. Cool. So, normally, I don't know how we're going to demonstrate this. You have the opening, and there are ways that you can kind of pour it. Some people say pour it sideways, not straight down, but off the side. What you're trying to do is you're trying to cause the, demonstrate here, this depth here. The air bubble has to form in there first for this to pour out properly. So obviously, if you have all this depth and you're trying to pour out, the air bubble has to go through, and as it comes into the back there, it kind of gurgles, and that's where you get that splash out. So if you start on the side, there's less space that air bubble has to go before it reaches the top there. So that sometimes pours a little bit better, but I've often found when that happens is even though it pours okay, that first one has a ton of head. And so what the demonstration that I had seen, and I'm by no means an expert at this, but what they had you do is, so again, this is going to be kind of hard to show with the open one, but right at the bottom of that lip, they want you to cut a second gap in there, and then cut a vent hole at the top. That therefore allows the formation of that vacuum that causes that gurgle to happen to basically be broken. That's a vacuum breaker is basically what's happening. So it's just two little, you use a church key, right, that old style bottle opener. Most people have some version of that. You must have too big of one here, actually. Oh, there you go. So we're going to cut a hole in the bottom there, and we're going to cut a hole at the top. I'm used to using yours.
Maybe this one will work.
There we go. So I'll pour this out now. Maybe we can tilt it a little bit at that point. You can see what I've done there. And actually, I'll approach. I'll show you what I did there. So again, it's just creating a vacuum break so that it pours a lot better without that big gurgle.
Yeah, just turn that towards the can.
So here, maybe I can
it's going to break the fourth wall.
I'm going to break the fourth wall here. So you can kind of see what I did there. We cut the little higher. Ooh, pour it on the ground. We cut a hole at the bottom there, and we cut that vacuum break at the top, just so that it has more space to come out. So if you have that little tool at home, again, I think most people have
something like this.
Something like that, right? That helps you out quite a bit in terms of not having to have either a ton of head or
We'll get them out later.
I did warn you that it wasn't going to be pretty.
So there's our little demonstration of how to treat a crowler can.
Yeah.
And like you said, we work hard to make sure our beer is great quality in the cans. We fill them all the way, eliminating air gaps, and especially when they're hand filled. Our canning machine actually adds a little foam layer to the top of the beer. So as it fills up the can, we do have a cap, but it's filled up with foam, CO2 foam, and that hopefully won't crack open.
A little bit more control.
Yeah. So awesome. We have another beer to talk about. My goodness.
And it's a
Here it is. It is pretty.
It's so pretty.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the newest iteration of Duck Duck.
Yes.
Our kettle sour, our Gose.
Yep.
And the flavors today are.
So this is, for lack of better terms, mostly black currant. There's a little bit of blueberry in it. It's not much. It's about 40 pounds of blueberry to 240 pounds of black currant or something like that.
That's a lot of black currant.
And if you're ever wondering why I put two fruits in there, there's a few examples. I think when we did the blood orange, we did a single fruit. But I typically like to balance out the fruits with two different fruits. Usually they're pretty similar. Pomegranate and blueberry, or in this case, red currant blueberry, kind of complementary flavors. But I've often found with, especially sour beers, when you ferment out a sugar in like a sour beer where there isn't a lot to hide behind. I mean, yes, it's sour, and so that adds some complexity to the beer, but there's not a lot of body to hide behind. When you ferment out a fruit, it obviously will give you a nice color, but that main essence of what people like in the fruit often disappears just because a lot of it was wrapped up in the sugar, and the sugar is now being consumed. And so adding two different fruits adds a little bit of complexity. Or a three fruit. I mean, there are a couple that do like mixed berry smoothies and stuff like that that have 4 or 5 fruits in them. But the reason we're doing that is because you have a lot of nuance in multiple flavors, whereas the single flavor might be a little bit too light in characteristic. And so this one has mostly black currant, but there's a little bit of blueberry in there, just kind of balance it out. Acid levels are a little bit different, and we can get into the chemistry and the boring stuff. But I mean, basically, when you sip this, it's a little bit more well-rounded.
It's on the tart side, a little bit
sweet.
A little bit sweet. A little bit sweet, more tart than it is sweet. Certainly still very approachable. You're new to the whole sour game. This is not a bad beer to start out with, frankly.
No.
It isn't going to kick your butt. So.
Not going to kick your butt. I mean, it is, if you want to stick like a pH probe in there, it might surprise you how much acidity is in there. But it is pretty approachable. And so, especially if you're coming at beer from a wine background or a cider background, this is maybe something a little bit easier to approach just because the body is very similar to both of those things, and then also because of that acidity, it's pretty approachable from a just drinkability standpoint. You're not having to like muscle through all this backbone and maltiness and whatever. A lot of that is kind of hidden away by the acidity and in this case the fruit. So.
Our viewer Matthew says, for the Norwegians out there among us, how about some lingonberry? Matthew, I'm on board with that.
If you can find me
400 pounds of lingonberry,
I would love to do it, and I don't want it to be in little jars of jam.
If you find 5-gallon buckets of lingonberry, Matthew, we're on. Maybe you have it growing in your backyard.
I would love to do a lingonberry beer. I would love to do it.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I watch Newsstand cooking on PBS, so I'm all about the lingonberry. So a little nerdy there. All right. So we've got 2 very different beers again today.
Yes.
One end of the spectrum to the other. I do want to do a little advertisement here for our German chocolate cake.
That's fine.
Russian Imperial Stout. Lots of words. We talked about it last time.
Yeah.
There are a few bottles of this left. And if you saw some of our social media about this is the Chardonnay barrel-aged Gose from a while back. It's been sitting in that barrel for a while.
Yep. So this was the pineapple mango variation of Duck Duck that we made 5-6 months ago.
And as the guy guy who put it in the bottle. I did some quality assurance testing along the way.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know if I can say this enough, but it is a very unique beer experience. I think it's not like anything you've probably ever had. People have been coming in during the week to get second and third bottles of this stuff. Yeah. Because it's pretty special. So if you're seeing this for the first time and you want to impress your beer snob friends, or frankly just hoard it for yourself,
that's right.
Come down and get it because we're getting pretty low on this. Yeah. So come in quick. We have I've been drinking Loki Stellar all day. Yes. But so when we reopen, we're gonna have this on tap, and we're really not actually putting in too many cans. But just a quick story. In the brewing process, we recycle yeast. We take yeast from one batch of beer and use it in the next. We propagate. Borrow, propagate. And one of our previous batches was Holy Moly. Pat, thank you. I know you're watching, Pat, because I can see it here. One of his favorite beers. Yes. And in that process, we took that yeast and we made Loki's Daughter with it. Well, there was some residual spiciness that came with it.
You know, I have to admit that I've done this before, and the spice characteristic did not transport with the yeast. However, I mean, this isn't a hot beer by any means.
No.
But
I want some.
But I think all the people who really love Loki's Daughter will probably be able to tell just a little bit of a nuanced difference to it.
So we're calling it sassy Loki's Daughter. Because that's what we have.
It very much is.
It very much is.
It is super yummy. Yeah.
So the folks that have had it told me that they enjoy it. So there it is.
We've even heard that some people might enjoy it a little bit more than they used to.
Yeah. No, we can't.
I don't know if I can repeat it. That's the problem.
I'm just going to toss this out. One is that you're brewing an oatmeal stout tomorrow.
I am.
So look forward to that. We're talking about that in a few weeks.
Love our dark beers.
So that'll be about 3 weeks out before we start that. 3 or 4 weeks.
3, 4, yeah.
And then the other thing that was brewed yesterday, and this is a long-term investment, is another batch of herd of turtles.
It's a long day for me. It was an 11-hour brew day.
Yeah, and I've seen the original gravity reading on. You showed that to me. We're in for a treat, I think. Brian, if you're watching, I can't wait till you get to try.
Yes, actually, when he gets back from Jamaica, I think he needs to do a little taste testing with me.
So awesome. So herd of turtles is in the fermenter already. Oatmeal stout is happening tomorrow. Yes. Magic Feather this weekend. Cinco, a Dortmunder in a week or so. Thank you to all of you for your support during this time. We're going to open next week. Watch our social media. Wednesday through Sunday will be basically when we're open for sit-down service. Boy, we covered a lot today. Oh, and this handy little lesson in drinking beer, because we all need a little help sometimes.
Or we just like learning new things. I don't know.
All those things. By the way, there's some of these left for sale. Come get mine. I know Christmas is gone and past for the year, but you deserve them. They're $35. So stop down and get it. And hey, thanks to everybody for joining us for another Beers with Ben. Until another couple weeks.
I'm Ben.
I'm Sean. See you later.
Bye, guys.